Biker punches 85-year-old veteran 30 minutes later. His son arrives with a military strike team. The small town of Willow Creek, nestled in the heart of rural America, was the kind of place where everyone knew each other. The streets were lined with old oak trees. The diner served pie that could make a grown man weep, and the people took care of their own. That morning, 85-year-old Walter Jenkins, decorated Vietnam veteran, retired mechanic, and the town's beloved grandfather, sat on his usual bench outside the post office, feeding crumbs to the sparrows. His hands trembled slightly, a lingering effect of age and old war injuries, but his eyes were sharp, still carrying the quiet strength of a man who had seen too much but never backed down. Then the roar of an engine shattered the peace. A massive, chrome-laden motorcycle screeched to a halt in front of the post office. The rider, a hulking man with a shaved head and a leather vest adorned with the insignia of the Iron Reapers MC, kicked down the stand and glared around like he owned the place. His name was Jax Grinder Malone, and he had a reputation for leaving broken bones in his wake. Walter barely glanced up as Jax stomped past him, but then "Move it, old man." Jax snarled, shoving Walter's shoulder. The veteran wobbled but didn't fall. He straightened slowly, meeting Jax's glare with the same steady gaze that had once stared down enemy fire. "Son," Walter said calmly, "you'd do well to show some respect." Jax laughed, a cruel, grating sound. "Or what? You gonna cry to your nursing home buddies?" Then, without warning, he drew back his fist and slammed it into Walter's face. The crack of bone against bone echoed down the street. Walter crumpled to the ground, blood trickling from his split lip. Gasps erupted from the handful of onlookers, but fear kept them frozen in place. Jax spat near Walter's boots. "Stay down, Gramps." Then he swaggered into the post office like nothing had happened. Inside the post office, Jax was too busy harassing the clerk to notice the frail old man outside slowly pushing himself up, wiping blood from his mouth. Walter reached into his pocket with shaky fingers and pulled out a battered flip phone. He dialed a number he knew by heart. One ring, two, then Dad. The voice on the other end was deep, commanding, laced with concern. Walter's voice was steady despite the pain. "Son, I need you." A beat of silence. Then, colder than winter steel. "Where?" 30 minutes later, the ground trembled. At first, the townsfolk thought it was thunder. Then, the distant whump, whump of rotor blades grew louder. A Black Hawk helicopter descended over Willow Creek like an avenging angel, flanked by 2 armored Humvees tearing down Main Street. The vehicles screeched to a halt outside the post office, and out stepped Colonel Marcus Jenkins, Walter's son, a hardened Special Forces commander with a team of elite soldiers at his back. Jax, who had just swaggered back outside with a stolen pack of cigarettes, froze. His smirk died as Marcus's icy gaze locked onto him. "You the one who put hands on my father?" Marcus asked, his voice lethally quiet. Jax swallowed hard but tried to bluff. "What? The old fart call the cops. Big deal." Marcus didn't wait for him to finish. A single nod and his men moved. What happened next was swift, brutal, and entirely one-sided. By the time the dust settled, Jax was zip, tied and stuffed into a Humvee, his bike impounded, his bravado shattered. The townsfolk watched in stunned silence as Marcus knelt beside his father, gently checking his injuries. "You didn't have to come all this way," Walter muttered, though his eyes shone with pride. Marcus shook his head. "You taught me to stand up for what's right, no matter what." As the Black Hawk lifted off, carrying Jax to face military justice, the people of Willow Creek exchanged glances. Some whispered, some cheered. But one thing was certain: Walter Jenkins wasn't just a kind old man. He was a man whose legacy ran deeper than anyone had realized, and Willow Creek would never forget it. News of the military strike team's arrival spread through Willow Creek like wildfire. By noon, the story had reached neighboring towns, and by evening it was trending online. The footage, shaky cell phone clips of armed soldiers detaining a biker, was being dissected on social media. Inside the Jenkins modest farmhouse, Walter sat at the kitchen table, an ice pack pressed to his jaw. Marcus stood by the window, watching the last of his men load up the Humvees. "You know this isn't over," Marcus said quietly. "The Iron Reapers won't take this lying down," Walter sighed. "I've faced worse than a bunch of leather-clad bullies." Marcus turned, his expression unreadable. "This isn't Vietnam, Dad. These men don't fight with honor. They'll come back, and they won't care who gets caught in the crossfire." A knock at the door interrupted them. Sheriff Ellie Carter stood on the porch, her hat in her hands. She was young for the job, but had earned the town's respect through sheer grit. "Walter," she nodded before turning to Marcus. "Colonel, I appreciate what you did today, but we've got a problem. The Iron Reapers just called in reinforcements. At least 20 bikes just rolled into the old mill outside town." Marcus's jaw tightened. "Then we handle it before they do." Ellie hesitated. "With all due respect, sir, this isn't a war zone. If the military starts a firefight in my town, people will get hurt." Walter pushed himself up from the table. "She's right, son. This is our home. We fight our own battles here." Marcus studied his father, then Ellie. Finally he exhaled, "Fine, but I'm not leaving until this is settled." By nightfall, Willow Creek was eerily quiet. The usual hum of crickets was absent, as if even nature sensed the coming storm. At the diner, Walter sat with Marcus, Ellie, and a handful of townsfolk, men and women who had known Walter for decades. Some were veterans themselves. Others were just ordinary people who refused to let fear rule their lives. "We can't outgun them," Ellie admitted, "but we know these streets better than they do." Old Tom, the diner's cook, wiped his hands on his apron. "I've got my granddaddy's shotgun behind the counter. Ain't much, but it'll make 'em think twice." Marcus leaned forward. "Then here's what we do." The Iron Reapers came at midnight. Their bikes roared through the empty streets, headlights cutting through the darkness like knives. They expected resistance, maybe a few cops, maybe even Marcus's soldiers. What they didn't expect was the entire town waiting for them. As the lead biker skidded to a halt in the town square, a spotlight flicked on, illuminating Walter standing alone in the center. Jax's older brother, Vance, the Reaper's enforcer, dismounted, cracking his knuckles. "You've got a death wish, old man." Walter didn't flinch. "You've got a choice. Leave now, or learn the hard way why you don't mess with Willow Creek." Vance laughed. "Until the shadows moved asterisk." From rooftops, alleys, and doorways, the townspeople stepped forward. Farmers with rifles, shopkeepers with bats, even the high school football team, armed with nothing but courage. And behind Walter, Marcus and his men stood in full tactical gear. Vance's smirk faded. For a heartbeat, no one moved. Then Vance spat on the ground. "You think this scares us? We are the nightmare." He lunged, just as a single gunshot cracked through the air. The bullet whizzed past Vance's ear, embedding itself in a bike's gas tank. Every head turned toward the source, a hunched figure leaning against the sheriff's office porch. It was Doc Henderson, Walter's oldest friend and a retired Marine sniper. His rifle smoked in his hands. "Next one doesn't miss," Doc drawled. Vance's men exchanged uneasy glances. Their bravado was crumbling. Marcus stepped forward. "Last chance. Walk away." The silence stretched. Then, with a muttered curse, Vance turned and kicked his bike back to life. One by one, the reapers followed. As the roar of engines faded into the night, the town exhaled. The next morning, the sun rose over a town that felt different, stronger. At the diner, Walter nursed a coffee while Ellie debriefed the state police. Marcus sat across from him, his phone buzzing with calls from higher-ups demanding explanations. "You know they'll send someone else eventually," Marcus said. Walter smiled. "Let him, we'll be here." Outside, kids played in the streets. Neighbors chatted over fences, life went on, but now, when people passed Walter's bench, they didn't just see an old man, they saw a legend, and Willow Creek, it was his town. For weeks after the standoff, Willow Creek buzzed with an unshakable energy. The Iron Reapers had vanished like smoke, but everyone knew biker gangs didn't forget grudges. They buried them until the right moment. Walter's bruises faded, but his instincts stayed sharp. He'd seen this before, the quiet before an ambush. One evening, as he tinkered with his old Ford pickup in the barn, headlights cut through the dusk. A sleek black SUV rolled up the gravel drive, government plates gleaming. A man in a crisp suit stepped out. "Mr. Jenkins," he said, flashing a badge too quickly to read. "We need to talk about your son." Inside the farmhouse, the suit agent Locke laid a folder on the table. Surveillance, photos of Marcus in conflict zones, reports on the Iron Reapers' ties to arms smuggling, and a single damning line. Asterisk, Colonel Jenkins' unsanctioned operation violated half a dozen military protocols. Asterisk, Walter didn't flinch. "Get to the point." Locke leaned forward. "Your son's career is hanging by a thread, but we're prepared to forget this. Asterisk, indiscretion, asterisk. If he assists with a matter of national security." Marcus, who'd been silent, finally spoke. "What matter?" Locke smiled. "The Reapers are funneling stolen military hardware to a foreign militia. We need someone to infiltrate them." A beat of silence. Walter's coffee cup hit the table with a asterisk clink asterisk. "You want my boy to go undercover with the men who tried to kill me?" Locke's smile didn't waver. "We want him to finish what he started." 3 days later, Marcus stood in a warehouse outside Detroit, wearing a Reaper's patch on his vest. The initiation was brutal, a gauntlet of fists, a knife pressed to his throat to test his nerve, and a single question from Vance. "Why'd you really come crawling to us, asterisk, soldier boy, asterisk?" Marcus spat blood on the concrete. "Because the army tossed me out for saving my old man. And now," he met Vance's gaze, "I want payback." Vance laughed and handed him a beer. "Welcome to the family." Half a mile away, in a surveillance van, Agent Locke adjusted his headset. Phase 1 complete. Back in Willow Creek, Walter sat on his porch, staring at the horizon. Ellie's cruiser pulled up, kicking dust. "We've got trouble," she said, tossing him a burner phone. One text glowed on the screen, asterisk, "They know, get out." Asterisk, Walter's blood turned to ice. Somewhere, Marcus was running for his life, and the Reapers, they were coming for Willow Creek again. The night air in Willow Creek was thick with tension. Walter stood in the middle of Main Street, the same place he'd faced down Vance weeks before. Only this time, the town wasn't hiding. They were ready. Ellie checked her shotgun, her hands steady despite the fear in her eyes. State police are 30 minutes out, National Guards on alert. Walter adjusted the old Kevlar vest he hadn't worn since Nam. "We don't have 30 minutes. The roar of engines echoed in the distance, growing louder. Not just bikes this time. Modified trucks, men hanging off the sides, rifles glinting under the streetlights. The Reapers weren't just angry, they were Asterisk coming to burn it all down. Asterisk Marcus's burner phone had gone dark hours ago. No word, no sign, but Walter knew one truth in his bones. Asterisk, no one gets left behind. Asterisk, the Reapers skidded into town, a wave of violence ready to crash. Vance stepped forward, a Molotov in hand. Should have stayed down, old man. Walter didn't blink, should have learned the first time. Then gunfire, not from the townsfolk, not from the Reapers, from the woods. Men in tactical gear emerged like ghosts, pinning the Reapers in a crossfire. At their head, bloodied but standing, was Asterisk Marcus. Asterisk Vance whirled, eyes wide. You, Marcus didn't waste words. He moved. No more running, it was over in minutes. The Reapers, outmaneuvered and outgunned, dropped their weapons. Vance lay face, down in the dirt, Marcus's knee in his back as cuffs clicked shut. Walter limped over, gripping his son's shoulder. "You're late," Marcus grinned, exhausted, had to make an entrance. Behind them, the townsfolk lowered their weapons. The cavalry, state troopers, National Guard, finally arrived, but the fight was already won. Dawn broke over Willow Creek, painting the streets in gold. Marcus stood at the edge of town, duffel bag in hand. His discharge papers were official now. No more uniforms, no more orders. Walter joined him, handing over a set of truck keys. "Where to?" Marcus looked at the horizon. "Don't know yet." A beat, then Walter nodded. "Well, you know where to find me." And as the sun rose, father and son stood side by side. Two soldiers finally at peace. The end.